NBA fans, welcome back to my channel. Jordan versus LeBron. Now, let's talk about LeBron's meltdowns. And he's got a lot of meltdowns in the playoffs, the NBA finals over his career. But let's talk about the biggest 3-year meltdown in NBA history was perpetrated by LeBron. At a time when I would consider him in his prime, I would consider he had good teams. He was the MVP of the league. And all this good stuff for LeBron. And I think we all know about this, but we really don't know how deep it was until we look at the numbers, because when we deal with like ESPN, Fox, and these LeBron lovers, they just say, oh, he lost those games and blah blah blah, but we really don't know how deep it really was when we look at it. So let's look at it. In 2009, LeBron had the number 1 overall seed in the entire NBA with a bunch of nobodies. Wow. It's kind of like the 2007 thing, when he took a bunch of nobodies to the NBA finals. But when we look back at it, if you go look back at it, I got the video. The 2007 season, LeBron posted a negative, whatever you want to call it, a minus 49 for the playoffs in 2007 playoffs. So how did he take a bunch of nobodies to the NBA finals if he was a negative 49 on a plus minus? That you got to tell me how that makes any sense. And if that's good that he did that, then it's just showing how weak the East was back then. It just shows how weak the East was. And even though he got swept, all those games were close. So that also tells you how weak the entire NBA was. Even though he got swept, all those games were like real close, like less than 10 points. Some of them like 2 points, some like 5 points. So, and the Spurs, they really didn't play that good. They just played good enough to beat the Cavs and beat LeBron, who was a brick fest. All they knew was, don't let the guy drive and we win the game. So let's look at this. Again, 2009, LeBron had the number 1 overall seed, which his fans claim he had nobody to help him out. This is what he did in Game 6 in the elimination game against the Dwight Howard. I think they was the number 3 seed. He put up 25 points, 8 for 20 from the field, 40% from the field, 25% from 3, 63% free throw shooting, 3 turnovers, and a minus 12. This you can't make this up because it's already in the history books, the NBA history books. This is what he did to get eliminated in Game 6. Now, if you go and you look back, I got Jordan in the playoffs, and we're doing every season for LeBron and Jordan. I think we're going into year 6. In 2 of those years, he played the Pistons, and he did have a couple bad games, but in the closeout games, he didn't poop it up. He went down fighting and stuff like that. So this is what LeBron gives you, a minus 12. And look, this guy is 63% from the field, so he's just leaving points on the court. I mean, you can't have a superstar unless he's like Shaq shooting 63% from the line. I mean, this is horrible. 25%. I mean, you guys claim this guy was just great 3-point shooter, and he was just so great, better than Michael Jordan. But as we've already went through his first 5 seasons, this guy has been a brick fest from three, and he's been, whether it's in the regular season, playoffs, and the finals, and he's been chugging up threes like he's Steve Kerr, Curry or something like this. This guy averaging like 4 to 7 threes a game, and still only shooting like 28%, 31%, 32%. I mean, goodness. So we go to 2010. He had the number one overall seed in the playoffs again. Won the MVP again. So he just did back to back. Same thing just happened back to back with a bunch of nobodies. And it's just telling you how weak this era really is when we look at it. We got Dwight Howard. He couldn't get the number one seed in those years. And then you got the big three Celtics. They couldn't get number one seed. And they supposed to have top 75 players on their team. In 09, in 2010, they couldn't get the number one seed. In 11, they didn't get the number one seed. 12. So this is how weak this era really is when you look at it, that you got three top 75 players on one team that's basically scores. And LeBron is getting the number one seed during the season on these guys. What it meant, I guess it didn't mean too much. So LeBron lost this series in the playoffs against the Celtics, and it's not because it was the big three. This dude was the number one seed facing a 4 seed. They was this big three is so great. They had the number 4 seed. That's right. So in games 4, LeBron put up 22 points, 7 for 18 from the field, 38% from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, 0% for 3, 7 turnovers, and was a -7 on the plus minus. Like, we go to game 5. LeBron, 15 points, 3 for 14 from the field, 21% field goal percentage, 0 for 4 from the 3. Why does this guy keep shooting threes? Does anybody even know? Looks like three turnovers and was a -22 plus minus. Wow. Woo. How this thing even went to a game 6 is embarrassing, because Jordan would have swept this guy. I mean, any good team, even the Spurs, who just swept him in 2007, they just would have swept this guy. But, the Celtics, who was a super team, and they were so great, let this guy get 6 games. And let's go to game 6. 27 points. I think it's 8 for 21 from the field. 38% shooting. 2 for 4 from the 3. 50% from the line. 8 turnovers. It was a -5. Elimination game. So, in that series, LeBron took a 2-1 lead, and then pooped his pants the rest of the series. He lost 3 straight. So, LeBron, he was sick of playing with a whole bunch of nobodies and winning MVP. Winning MVP and playing with nobodies. See, to me, meltdown, like I told people before, you losing, that's not a meltdown. It's not a meltdown. When we look at the actual numbers of did you melt down, that's a meltdown. I'm talking about for a series. That's a meltdown. If you're in the playoffs and you have 1 bad game, 2 bad games, that's not a meltdown. But if you melted down in half of the series or more than half, you melted down for the whole series. That's what I consider the meltdown. And this guy melted down. Or you melt down in the closeout game. You melt down like this in the closeout game? Come on. Or you're the number one seed and you're losing to threes and fours? So let's get down here. That wasn't good enough. So he went out and he got Dwayne Wade. He got Bosch. And he got a whole slew of guys on his team the next year. Not one, not two, not three. I mean, who would come out and say some stuff like that? I mean, could you imagine Jordan do? Could you imagine Jordan just even saying that without a super team with him and Pippen? Like, why would you do something like the NBA stopped really being the NBA? The NBA stopped being the NBA when this guy came onto the scene. I really don't know what to say about that, but I just couldn't imagine Jordan really sitting in a chair going, not one, not two, not three. It's like the NBA is gone. It stopped being the NBA with this guy a long time ago. He's just a character. He's not really a great basketball player. You can even imagine Kareem sitting in the chair doing something like that. Not one, not two. Could you Magic Johnson or Larry Bird or like Wilt Chamberlain or Bill? I mean, seriously, could you imagine these players taunting the whole NBA about they're gonna win like 8 championships? That's weird. Like, you can see why a lot of people left the NBA. So he goes and he gets his super team, and he takes a 2-1 lead over the Mavs after he taunted them too before the series. Game 4, after he's up 2-1, he puts up 8 points, 4 turnovers, 20% from the field, 0% from three, 50% field goal percentage, and a -6 plus minus. The next game, I guess we're tied 2-2. Game 5, he puts up 17 points, 4 turnovers, 42% from the field, 0% 3-point percentage, 50% from the line, and -11 plus minus. Game 6, when now he's about to get eliminated. He's about to get eliminated. 21 points, 6 turnovers. Holy moly. 60% from the field, 40% from three, 25% free throw percentage, and was a -24. God. So, yeah, here you have it. The worst, the biggest 3-year meltdown in NBA history. And this guy is a top 5 player? A top 10 player? I'm talking about. Woo, this guy, wow. Had the number 1 seed in the entire playoffs 2 years in a row, and then built a super team, taunted the NBA, and he lost, got his butt kicked, really, 3 years in a row. And I can't even imagine this guy even being the face for the NBA after this. The NBA is real desperate. We'll talk about this another time. The NBA, it's a dying league. When LeBron leaves, it's going to be over. Not because he was a great player, it's because he's just entertainment.